So one thing that's on everyone's mind right now is the US presidential election. And don't worry, I'm not going to talk about politics or who I'm voting for or who you should vote for. I'll save you that. We're here to talk about the crypto market. The question that's coming up around this election is, how do you hedge? There's always that risk when there's a massive news event like this or a massive catalyst coming out that could cause the markets to go haywire. We're going to see probably lots of volatility in FX markets. We're going to see lots of volatility in stock markets, and we're probably going to see that translate over into crypto as well. And the question that's been popping up in everyone's head is, how do you hedge that? How do you try to protect the downside if the market does crash momentarily or if we see jolts? How do you prepare for that kind of scenario? And as I was thinking about that myself, there's really only a couple answers. The first one is have some of your portfolio in cash. So if we do dip, you can buy. That's something hopefully you did before today. But if you didn't, there's a couple other options, so don't worry. The other option is to short a little bit of Bitcoin or your favorite coin. There's always a risk with that as well, because the markets could just go for a rip, as they have been doing for the past few weeks. You can get caught off sides, and then you have less Bitcoin. And then there's the third option. And this came up in a recent podcast discussion I had with a trader. He talked about shorting some of the weakest coins in the market, where even if Bitcoin does go up, these coins have been underperforming. And if Bitcoin drops, these coins have also been dropping. So you actually get a really smart hedge this way. And it's something that proved to be correct last week when we had DeFi coins dropping 10, 15% in a week when Bitcoin was flat or slightly up. Shorting that weak sector when Bitcoin is doing that well gives you a nice priced hedge, or a smart hedge. And it's something that was very valuable in this last week, and I think it could be valuable going forward. Obviously, this isn't advice, but I'm going to show you guys a clip from that podcast because I think it's really important when people start thinking about, how do I hedge? How do I protect about downside? And Flood, the guest that I had on the show, had a really good explanation. He shared his thought process on this. It's someone I've tracked for a long time. He trades big size. He's done very well for himself. I think you guys are going to enjoy his answer. It'll at least help you think through how you can protect downside of your own portfolio, whether it's the election tomorrow or whether it's any event coming forward. And one more thing, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button right down below. I like to share these clips of traders and hedge funds and VCs, investors. I share these clips because I know that some people can't watch the full show, so I want to give you guys the most important bits. So let's get right to the clip, how he was hedging his portfolio, and I think this matters, especially coming up tomorrow. Enjoy. What's maybe something that you're looking at in the short term, in the medium term, that other people aren't looking at? I saw you posted a chart on Link, and if you look at Bitcoin rallies in the past, go back to 17, go back to 18. When Bitcoin runs, you have alts that get seriously outpaced, and that means they're losing value in Bitcoin. The flip side of that is if Bitcoin starts tanking, those alts doubly start losing value because they really drop in Bitcoin value and in USD value. Is that a trade you're pretty excited about going forward? I want to end with something actionable that people are listening. It's not a signal, it's not a hint, it's not advice, but I'm curious what you're thinking there with that Link short.
Yeah, I mean, the Link, I'm expecting, short-term retrace on BTC potentially. And again, I don't really love positioning myself when I don't have a definitive kind of signal, or I don't have a very strong bias, because I mean, the trend is clearly up. I mean, even a fifth grader could see that right now, right? But in terms of kind of hedging and protecting myself against potential downside, now that alts have pretty significant liquidity and you can get decent sized positions, like you said, historically and kind of what we've seen for years, and even recently as market dynamics have shifted, we've seen alts really take a beating whenever Bitcoin goes up. And then also when Bitcoin retraces from significant rallies, it can take a while for alts to bottom. Yeah. So you're kind of getting a bit better of a hedge, because even if Bitcoin rallies, the alt may not necessarily match it. And there's a certain degree of randomness when it comes to alts, because again, there's a number of different factors that go into that. But I think hedging with pretty volatile alts like YFI, I was pretty bearish on YFI for a while, and that trade worked out pretty well. And then, obviously on governance tokens like Curve and stuff, you're kind of getting the downside protection. You're paying the price a little bit with liquidity, but again, you're also not short Bitcoin. You're short something that potentially can spiral into a bit of an inverse correlation, relationship as Bitcoin rips up.
Yeah. And
again, I mean, I don't really want to sell any spot here. I don't really want to have a margin short position on Bitcoin, because we can have a huge, sell side liquidity crisis. Like we said, if it just, teleports up while you're sleeping or something, you can slip pretty nastily on some of these exchanges. And yeah, I mean, there's no real, Like, I don't have any bias towards Link. I don't, feel any particular way. I just look at some of these alts that have rallied, even Ethereum, right? You can see when Bitcoin goes up, it'll follow. Sometimes it'll outperform. And then when Bitcoin goes down, it can really swan dive considerably. And
Yep.
and again, with a lot of these DeFi alts, you're seeing kind of the macro trend play out where they had this all-time high, where they had this huge move up. I mean, Link was trading at $20, and there's a lot of still sell pressure of people who bought considerably higher as these alts continue to rally.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
It's not like everyone was just flushed out, and that's kind of the inverse with Bitcoin, where Bitcoin's finally entering that, break out this macro all-time high stage. So that's also why I'm a bit more bearish on alts going forward, especially if Bitcoin continues to rally. And even if it retraces all the way back to 10K or something, you're going to get a lot of value out of hedging some of these, larger cap alts that have a little bit more volatility. Because if Bitcoin does rally, or if it does go down, you're going to be protected in both instances, hopefully, right? And,
Sure.
and then
Yeah.
the alt can shoot up 10%. That's always a possibility, but that's kind of my thinking right now in terms of where I'm looking for shorts if I think Bitcoin looks a little bearish.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that clip from the podcast. It's something that's really relevant coming up tomorrow as everyone thinks about how do I manage a hedge? How do I think about protecting my portfolio? It was a nice discussion we had. You can always listen to the full show down below, but that at least should give you a head start in how you should think through that process. What kind of coins would make sense to short? Obviously, just having some in cash is a good play, but you don't always have to short Bitcoin. You don't have to sell your Bitcoin. And honestly, for investors, just holding your Bitcoin through events like this that might not matter at all is always a good play too. And one more thing before you guys go, these daily updates are sponsored by Crypto.com. It's the best mobile app to have for crypto on your phone. You can easily buy Bitcoin and DCA into Bitcoin, so you don't have to worry about the price or the fluctuations. You're just buying Bitcoin constantly, getting that position size on. You can download the app right down below. You need it on your iPhone. Check it out. It's killer. That's all I got. I'll see you guys in the next video.